Welcome to the Do Life in a Body You Love podcast. I'm Nikki O'Day, and we are going to talk about any and every topic that will get you showing up bigger and bolder in your life. Weight loss, relationships, mindset, it's all on the table. It may not come out real PC, but if you're sick of motivational rah-rah talks that don't lead to any real change in your life, then you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome, Do Life in a Body You Love podcast, ladies. I'm so excited. I have another amazing guest for you guys. I have my beautiful friend Jill here with me, and she is a life coach extraordinaire, and she's going to drop so many awesome knowledge bombs on you guys and ways that you can transform your life. And so welcome to the podcast, Jill.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
What kind of life coach are you, Jill?
So I am a confidence coach for moms. I've chosen to work specifically with moms because I am a mom. And I just feel like confidence is something that a lot of moms are lacking, and they're for a variety of reasons. And it's just something that I love to help moms work with. But overall, general life coach, I can help moms with anything that they want to improve in their life. Confidence is really kind of the ultimate goal.
That's awesome. I'm assuming there's like lots of paths to get there because we all lack confidence for different reasons, right? So you probably have a lot of things you work with chicks on.
Right. Yes, a lot.
That's cool. That's very cool. So what are some common things that you end up having to guide your clients through? I would assume, I don't know, I'm not a life coach, I'm a weight loss coach, but I would assume that there are some common themes that come up.
Yeah, there are. So mom guilt is a big one.
Ooh, okay. You can stop right there, and we're going to talk about that right now because that's huge. Even what I do in weight loss, a lot of it is mom guilt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I actually remember before I was even a mom, I remember a lady that I worked with. She was mentoring me for a position. And I remember we went to a wedding shower for a friend, and she said, everyone had to give a piece of advice. And she said, well, my advice is you'll never be free of the guilt. You'll never be free of the guilt when you get married, when you're a mom, especially when you're a mom, it just gets worse. But you'll never be free of it. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to feel guilty. And then I became a mom, and I'd be like, I feel guilty. Did I spend enough time with the kids? Is my house too clean? It's not clean enough. You know, my kids, I'm home with them so they don't get some of the experiences that other kids have, or, you know, whatever, just all these feelings. I remember thinking, well, she told me it'd be a part of it. This is just what it is. And then I got to thinking one day, I was like, I don't think that that's really serving me anymore. And so I just decided that I wanted to be free from it. And then I realized that we actually can be, and it was kind of life-changing.
Yeah. So walk us through, like, what are some of the common misconceptions about this? Or I think even just knowing that other people experience it is helpful, right? Like, we're all in our own heads and think like, this is uniquely a me problem. And it's like, no, boo, it ain't. It's a everybody who's birthed children problem.
I think you nailed it right there too. With so many of the things that come up with my clients, many moms, I feel like there's, oh my gosh, I could like go down a thing here. It's hard because I feel like women feel like they're alone. And again, it's like there's layers, right? So women feel like they're alone and they don't think that other people are experiencing, you know, other moms aren't experiencing the same thing that they are, because we don't always feel like we can trust other women enough to let them know how we're really feeling. And so that's like another layer, like not being able to trust. There's reasons why we don't trust people because of things that have been said to us, because of the way that we've been treated, which actually adds another layer of the guilt, because a lot of our guilt, I find, comes from things that other women have actually said to us. It tends to be other women, at least. And a lot of times it comes from the women that are close to us. These are a lot of the confidence stealers. This is where I believe that what steals actually a lot of our joy. And it breaks my heart because I just feel like we as women could do so much better. But it comes down to first seeing what's going on within ourselves and working through some of those things, getting actually some healing, doing some healing work, and getting ourselves to a good place. And I guess it comes down to really loving ourselves and loving who we are. And then once we've got that down, shedding some of that guilt, it helps some of that just kind of peel off. And then we can show up to women in a different way, and we can help them realize, then we can be open about what we've been through, and then we can help them go through kind of the same thing. But I feel like it comes down to getting ourselves with the help that we need, right? Knowing what's going on, and then being able to come from a place of vulnerability, but confidence of like, I'm not going to be judged, or if I am, I'm going to be okay. Right. But I have a gift to share with you. The gift is my experience. So everybody has a gift to share because of any experience that they have gone through. I'm sorry, I went down kind of a long rabbit hole on
That's
that
what
one.
we do on this podcast. We just rabbit hole down different things. I just, how I am. I have my ADD all over the place. I'm here, I'm there. No, rabbit holing is what we enjoy here. So no need to apologize. I think though, like, okay, so we all know we need to do this work. I'm not happy. I don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel confident either in my body or in my abilities as a parent or in my abilities as a wife or a Christian or whatever the thing is that we don't have confidence in. But then we feel guilty to even take time to fix it. Right? Isn't that the crux of mom guilt, is like, oh, so I need to get my act together, except for that would take time away from my family. And I already don't have enough time for my family. So I can't do that. It would be selfish and so people just don't even want to get started.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking time for ourselves, no matter what it is. I talked to a client last week and she said, well, if I'm up on top of things and I've got my work done, I've got my housework done, and like the kids are busy with something, and she's like, I have a minute to sit down. She goes, I feel guilty to sit down. What? Right? Like we don't even feel like we can't even give ourselves permission to sit down for a few minutes. And I have felt that way. Like I, never would watch TV, never sit down. Like there's always something to do. And, just giving ourselves even permission to just have a minute to ourselves to actually process our own thoughts.
Yeah, that's a big one. So like, if you don't have time to check in with yourself, this is how, by the way, we look at situations and we're like, how did I get here? Like it didn't just happen overnight, right? But it feels that way because we're so disconnected from our own thoughts and what's going on truly in our life, because we're just in the grind and we never stop to do the checking in, right? And like, I think sometimes we keep our schedules overpacked as a way to check out, but that's probably a whole different rabbit hole. But like, let me just keep my schedule packed, because if I'm busy, that means I'm good at this. That means I'm being productive. Like the busier my schedule, the better the person I am.
Yep.
And that's a hard one, because it's like, well, that's not necessarily true. Now I wear my TV watching time like a badge of honor now. I'm like, listen, y'all, I watch 2 hours of television every day. I don't feel bad about it at all. I love it. Like mindless TV too. So it started off as documentaries because then I felt okay about myself. And then I was like, F it, I'm going to watch the Kardashians. What's up now? Like, ladies, you don't have to run around like a chicken with your head cut off to be a good person.
No, and if I can say something about that too, my early years of being a mom, that is how I felt. That is exactly how I would describe myself. I felt like every day I ran around like a chicken with my head cut off, but I never got anything done. And I help with that too. That's actually a big one. I mean, we're all running around. So many women will say, I ran around all day. I didn't have a minute to sit down, right? Maybe they didn't let themselves, or maybe they just, didn't really have a chance to. They lay their head on the pillow at night, and then the feelings and the thoughts start coming. They're like, did I have enough time with my kids? Did I do this? Did I do that? I ran around all day, but did I get anything done? They'll have this question in their head. And so actually helping moms focus and get the things done that are important to them. Because another thing is too, again, talking about what can be placed on us by other women. I had a client that felt some guilt because of something that her mom had said to her. Her mom had said, well, you shouldn't be doing this. And she's like, but it was something she wanted to be able to do. Like, I can't remember the exact circumstances, but it was something her mom had said to her. So it was something that lifted her and brightened her days. I think it was having people over, having friends over, when her mom thought she was doing it too much. But she's like, but I like it. And it's actually really good for my kids. But she was like, why do I feel so guilty? And we were able to uncover she felt guilty because her mom had told her that she shouldn't. Like, it should be her taking care of her kids, watching them at all times, that she couldn't even have a friend over and have a conversation and like let the kids play. It was a whole mess. And we were able to unwind it and realize, like, oh, I'm feeling guilty because this actually, it was a like a battle in her mind, because her mom told her that she shouldn't be doing this, but she was so filled up and just loving it, having these moms over with the kids, and just it was just a beautiful thing for her, and her kids just loved it. But then she had this in her head of her mom telling her no. So, there was this battle in her head. And so we need to be very careful as women, that even to know where the guilt comes from, because again, a lot of times what I am seeing with my clients, it's coming from what other people have said. It's other people's expectations and maybe how they run their life, but they've been, happy to share their opinion of how we should do it or we shouldn't do it. And it causes this disconnect in us that we're like, why I want to do it this way. So I'll ask my clients, well, what do you want? And sometimes they've never even asked themselves. They
have no idea.
They don't even know. Nope. They've never even had the chance, because it's like, right. I mean, this is another rabbit hole, the shoulds, right? So you should do this and you should do that. We need to stop shoulding ourselves. As women, we're huge at shoulding ourselves, again, because of things that other people have told us to do, other expectations that other people have for us. So we're playing in a game that we didn't even want to play in.
Yeah. It's questioning, where did you get this value system? That what do you think is a good mom or a good spouse, right, or a good person? Okay, but why do you think that? Where'd that come from? Is it even true? I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, everything that you think is probably false, including myself, not just you as a client, but like me too. Most of our assumptions that we're walking around with are BS. So if you're thinking you need to be doing a certain thing or you should do something, I'm like, don't even judge yourself for having the thought, right? But it's like, right. Well, is it true? Is it true that you should do that? Yep. Why do you think you should do that? Sometimes people didn't even say it to us. We watch what other people are doing and then assume we're supposed to do that, or what we think they're doing because that's what they post on Facebook, or like whatever the thing is. And we're like, I guess that's what you're supposed to do. I'm not doing that, so I suck. And it's like, well, who said you had to do that?
Yeah. And again, and that's such a confidence killer, right? Because we're looking at somebody else and thinking, well, I'm supposed to do that. Or like you said, I suck. So then here comes in, well, this mom just took her kid to 7 places in 7 days, and I'm over here and my kids and I are just hanging out at home. Maybe that's what we thought we liked, or maybe it's financial. There's a whole host of reasons. But now we're like, well, now I don't measure up there. I'm not doing enough. This whole enough thing comes in. Well, there's no even definition for enough, right? Like it's this elusive term that we try and get. Well, if I can be enough, this is another one that comes up very commonly with my clients. Am I enough? Am I doing enough? And it's like, there's no definition of enough, but we see these other things. We say, well, I don't measure up, so I'm not good enough. I suck. Like you said, I suck. I'm a bad mom. I'll give you a prime example. A couple of weeks ago, I was with some moms and we're talking about kids going back to school. And one mom said, I never cry when I drop my kids off at school. And another mom said, I cry every year I drop my kids off at school. And so they both had said, look, I don't know what's wrong with me. I never cry. And then the other one's like, well, I cry every year. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I'm like, hey, nothing's wrong with either of you. But the problem would be then now if the one said, well, she cries and I don't, or the other one said, well, I don't cry and she does, or whatever. Yeah. And now you're like, we're measuring ourselves up, and it's like, no, you both do it. That's who you are. Can we just celebrate each other? Because that robs our confidence then, right? Now we're questioning ourselves. Well, am I enough? What's wrong with me? Am I doing enough? And again, like with the thoughts, like you said, the thought is, I love this. Every thought is optional. It's
Correct.
optional. And like you said, is it true? We were never taught to question our thoughts. And
we should question all of our thoughts, ladies.
Question all of them. And what I love too is you have a thought that goes through your head. Is it serving you? Is it serving you? Is it serving you who you want to be? Is it taking from your joy? Is it taking from your future? If we're, a lot of times we are tired, we're exhausted. I am convinced it's not even fully because of the amount of things that are in our schedule. It's because of the crap going on up here. We're wasting a tremendous amount of energy beating the crap out of ourselves for what we should be doing, for if we're enough, for questioning all these things. Social media can drive some of that. Today I think there's more of that with moms than we ever used to have. But it's this battle, it's this crap going in our heads. And I just think it's stealing our joy, it's stealing our confidence, it's stealing our energy. But it doesn't have to. Like, I just love that I can help my clients get every piece of that back. And it's much simpler than what you think it is. It feels very daunting, to go from where you are to think where you want to be. But that process is much simpler and it happens much faster than what you could ever imagine.
Yeah. Well, I think it's daunting for people because there's no frame of reference for what's possible, right? Like what sort of change is possible. And then B, people aren't aware of how to get there. Right. So that's why these types of conversations I think are so important. And that's why I love having guests like you come and talk to these chicks just to like, oh, this is like a thing. Like people like get coaching for this. People work on stuff like this. I'm not a freak because I don't feel like I'm doing enough. Like, yeah, you can chase the whole doing enough thing right into the ground and have nothing to show for it and not be happy. Like, I watch women do that constantly.
Yeah. And you touched on another one there too. It's the doing, right? So we were always told you want X, do, right? It's all about the do. What do you do? We ask people that when we meet them. Hey, what's your name? What do you do for a living? Right? It's all in the do. And I remember learning, I think it was from Zig Ziglar. Like, he's like, it was more about the be, right? Like, you can have more, do more, be more, but it starts with like who you are. And honestly, I never really fully understood that until coaching. I just didn't. Now understanding more of, and I don't know how much detail you want me to get into, but like how our thoughts create our feelings and our feelings create our actions and our actions create what shows up in our life. We want to start with the do, but the problem is we haven't addressed the thought. And so, and you know this with your weight loss clients, we've got these pesky thoughts in our heads and you can kind of overcome them for a certain amount of time, but then we're going to phase out if we're trying to do an action that's inconsistent with who we think we are. But
100.
Right. But it's not as simple as we all know positive thinking, and some people love it and some people hate it and some people think it's whatever. I was always taught about positive thinking. Okay, well, I can't think like that, right? Don't think like that. Stop thinking like that. And that was the wrong way to go about it. For many reasons. First of all, I was giving my focus to the wrong thing. But second of all, to just say, well, somebody who's like myself, who struggled with depression and anxiety and some of those things, to think, well, just be happy. Just, don't be anxious. Just feel better. That it's too big of a jump, right? We can't go from, or I don't feel like enough as a mom to just, oh, you are enough and you're, whatever. Like, it's just so far of a jump. Like, we need to, like the thought ladder, like work ourselves there. And it's a beautiful process. And again, it doesn't have to take years. I mean, I've had coaching calls where I've had a thought or a situation that I've struggled with for literally years. In one session, I will be broken free. I mean, I can be changed forever. So it doesn't have to be this huge process, but sometimes it can take a little bit more time to change the thinking into more of a positive one that serves us and has us showing up how we want to show up in our life. And then we can get the result that we want.
Yeah. And when people are like, just think positive, I'm like, listen, that's about as helpful as nothing. I can't think of a good analogy right now, but it's helpful zero. So anybody who's had like ruminatory thoughts, which most people who have anxiety, depression have ruminatory thoughts, where you're just like on the same topic, you might even know that the thought isn't real, that it's not true. It doesn't stop it from surfacing. So then when you tell somebody, you just need to change your thoughts, you just need to think more positive, what we're doing is saying, you don't even think right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you haven't given them a tool to change it. So it's true, the thought isn't serving them. But if you're not telling them how to fix it, it's about as helpful as when you go to the doctor and you want to lose weight and they say, make a lifestyle change. Thanks, doc. What the hell does that mean? And how do I do it?
Yes.
It's not that it's untrue. It's just that it's unhelpful. So no, you're not going to just positive think your way out of everything. You got to do like the thought work. But it all starts with your thoughts, because you're never going to behave consistently with a way that's incongruent as how you see yourself.
Yeah. It's
a mismatch. You can't do it. So it's all thought work. Everything is.
But
finances, thought work, weight loss, thought work. I don't care what it is. It's all thought work.
Yeah. But to tell the mom who has lost her confidence because of maybe, people around her, maybe her mom told her she's been, you literally cannot believe some of the things that women are told. It is infuriating, right? It's infuriating. And a lot of it comes from the people who are closest to us. A lot of it's
moms.
Yeah, it is.
I'm just going to say it.
Yep. A lot of it is other moms, and it tends to come from friends, people who you would call them a friend, right? Probably not a close friend, but sisters, moms, and mother-in-laws. So much hurt comes from those groups of women, and they're supposed to be our closest. Our moms, our sisters, our mother-in-law, and our friends, they're supposed to be the people that don't hurt us. But because of their own stuff, they hurt us, and then we fixate on it. We make that a belief, right? We think, well, I'm a bad mom. And then someone comes along and says, oh, you're not very confident. You feel bad about yourself. Oh, you're a great mom. Just tell yourself you're a great mom. And it's like, what? No, like, how
I can tell myself I'm a unicorn, but I'm not. So this isn't helpful.
Yeah. And like you said, too, when you tell somebody basically, oh, your thinking is broken. Oh, well, I knew I wasn't great at cooking, or I knew I really struggled with being on time, or I don't consider myself like the best at like doing my hair and makeup, but oh gosh, now the very essence of like who I am, my thinking, I don't even think right. It's like, oh, top that on all the other things that she thinks she doesn't do right. And she's not measuring up to what she's seeing on social media, which we all know it's a highlight reel, but it really is a highlight reel. I'm telling you, I talk with moms whose marriages are broken, and they're sharing on their page a beautiful description of what their married life looks like. And it can be very painful to see. We're not seeing the full story.
Yeah. And nor should we. So like people judge social media and say, okay, like it is the highlight reel. And that's what I want all my clients to keep in mind always. But at the same time, I'm not bashing the people who are posting positive things, because I also don't think that you should get on there at 3 a.m. drunk and air your dirty laundry. So to a certain degree, it's the nature of what it is, right? You don't want to be posting like all the negative things in your world, because some of those are personal and not appropriate to share. Like there's sharing with your close confidants for like expert counsel.
Yes.
Then there's just sharing to be gossipy and all of that. If you're just posting every negative thing on social media, I think you're probably falling into that category. But recognizing the limitations of what we're really seeing.
Right. Don't use it.
Nobody has it all together.
No. And that's another thing too, is don't use it as a measuring stick against yourself. Like personally, I don't know about you, but when I go on Facebook, I don't want to be taken down. I would rather not see somebody, well, my husband's cheating on me and this and that. I don't know. I don't think that's really the right place. Like you said, special confidants, work with a counselor, coach, whatever. That doesn't need to be, you can share, you're going through a hard time, ask for prayer, whatever. But I look at social media as like a place to be encouraged, to be inspired, to see pictures of what are you proud of? Share. Like, I really feel like social media should be a positive tool to bring us up, but we can't forget that everybody has their own story, that everybody is truly fighting a battle that you know nothing about. And, so it's like, don't use that as a measuring stick against yourself to say, my life sucks. They have all this stuff. I think of Facebook as kind of like, it's like a celebration sort of thing. Like, people have called it a brag board, whatever. Like, I think of, let's encourage each other. Let's use it as inspiration, like to inspire each other, encourage each other, not to like share our deep, dark secrets or whatever. Some are called to be more vulnerable and whatever. Like, I share some things that some people never would, but not in a woe is me, only like to share where I've come from and let you know you're not alone. Right. But another thing us moms, like that thing that comes up a lot is, again, what are you making it mean? So what somebody says to you, or looking at somebody's beautiful family or the trips that they get to go on. Okay, well, a lot of times we turn that into us. It has nothing to do with us. Like, we'll use it against ourselves. We'll make it mean, again, I'm not enough. I don't get to do enough. Maybe I don't make enough money, or my husband doesn't make enough money because I'm not getting what they've got. And it's like, we're making it mean something. It has nothing to do with us. Like, it's just this, I don't know. We try and connect pieces that don't belong connected.
Well, human brains do that about everything, right? We try to tie together pieces of information, and we give them value and meaning. And that's where we have to step back and go, is the assumption I'm making even true?
Yep.
And if it is true, does it matter? Like, to the point where I'm like, I don't even care what somebody else thinks of me. Is none of my business as far as I'm concerned, let alone what's going on in somebody else's life. Like, this is literally nothing to do with me. Like,
and that's another big one that you've just mentioned. I mean, people are so concerned, especially as moms. And again, I think it's because opinions have been thrown out so freely. I mean, people are so quick to say, you're doing it wrong, or, well, I didn't do it this way. And, you shouldn't do it that way.
The dishing out of unsolicited advice. The implication is you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
So like you said, most of these things that get in our head and actually prevent progress and steal our joy come from people close to us. It's not that those people are assholes. Like, they're just, people like to talk.
Yeah.
Hello, me. I talk a lot. And they love to give their opinions, usually about things they don't know anything about. So your aunt, who's been dieting for 30 years and can never lose more than 5 pounds, is the first to tell you how the diet you're following is incorrect. And I'm over here like, but Sally, you don't seem like an expert at that. I'm not sure why you're talking right now. Or broke Uncle Bob at the Christmas party is going to tell you all about cryptocurrency. And you're like, you literally just filed for bankruptcy. Why are you talking to me about money? Like, people aren't qualified to give opinions. They just give them. And that's fine. We all do it. Like, I'm not even judging people for doing that. I'm sure I talk about all kinds of things I have no business talking about. If I ever say anything to you guys about geography, politics, math, it's wrong. Okay. It's wrong. Don't listen to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. But if we're having a conversation, I'm probably still going to contribute to the conversation. It doesn't mean that I'm qualified to say the things that I'm saying. And everybody speaks loud now that we have social media too. So you're having real life conversations, but you're also seeing things people are posting. Okay. So they're not being jerks. They're just saying, oh, like, your bestie might have read some article in Parent Magazine about how this sort of discipline is so damaging to a child. And it's all garbage. This wasn't written by a child psychologist. This was written by somebody who works at a magazine, right? But now she says it to you because she sees you parenting little Susie at the pool. And she's like, oh my God, I read this thing in Parent Magazine. And I don't think that you should do that. Whatever. She's not trying to be a jerk. She's just regurgitating something she read. But like, question that. Like, well, is this even true? Where did you get this information? Even if it's true, do I care? Like, what? But now that one stupid thing that they said is in our brain. So it's really not the people around us fault. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they're toxic, and there's a difference.
Right.
But like, people are just going to say random stuff to you, but you don't have to like put that in your memory bank and use this as data. Like, it's not. You just got to go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I don't think most people mean well, or they don't. I think most people most people mean well, right? I don't think most people are looking, to cut somebody down or make them feel bad. They think, hey, this is what I heard, or this is what I did, or whatever. But one thing I think we need to remember too is like, this really set me free in a lot of areas. What if there is no right way? What if there's no right way to discipline? What if there's the way that
accurate
you discipline, right? And what if, like, because our kids all have different personalities. And that, by the way, was so eye-opening to me to understand that what works with one kid doesn't work with another kid, not because of anything you're doing, but because of who God created them to be. They're different people. And again, that's why we're going to parent different. We're going to approach our kids differently, because I'm different than my girlfriend that I love so much. She's great, or my other girlfriend, We're all friends, but we all parent differently because we have different personalities and experiences. But it doesn't mean her way is right and mine is wrong, right? I just think that's a big thing too, is we tend to think, well, I must be doing it wrong. Or another one that's coming up a lot lately too is, my kid did this or that terrible, right? Don't we love to say, oh, they heard it from their parents. They act like their parents, right? So I think we say those things, and we now have that kind of thought in our head. So now my kid just did this. Well, it comes from the parents, right? We say this, we believe it, we hear it a lot, whatever. So it's like, oh crap, that comes from me. And it's like, no, it doesn't. I didn't teach them that. But then now it's like, well, I'm not doing a good enough job as a mom because, little Johnny punched some kid on the, recess or whatever. So then we make that mean. Again, what are you making it mean? And you could be the best parent out there, quotes, what's the best parent? Who's the best mom doing it the right way, if there is a right way? But your child still has free will. You cannot control your child. But it doesn't have to mean you're a bad mom. I think what we've been working on a lot lately is, maybe you want to make some changes. Okay, something's not working anymore. One thing that I like to tell myself when these things happen, I have 4 boys. It gets crazy. Stuff comes up. My kids say and do stuff that sometimes I'm like, who is raising you? I mean, who taught you that? Like,
didn't your mother give you enough spankings? And you're like, oh, it's me.
Seriously. Yeah. It's like, whose kid are you? Like, I can't. Somebody better talk to that parents. It's like, oh no, like, this is my circus. Those are my monkeys type thing, But it's like, it doesn't make me a bad mom, which I used to really feel that deeply when my kids would mess up. Now I say, okay, I know where my work is. Now I know what I need to work on. And so it's changing that mindset, but that mindset is everything, because that mindset will keep you sad and feeling less than and hurt. Or it can take you from, taking the bad situations. Romans 8:28, God promises to work all things together for the good. We can work it for the good. I have a client right now, a terrible situation. I mean, a hard situation. And it's actually like, their daughter got in some trouble, and it would hurt a lot of families. Like, oh, daughter got suspended from school. Like, this is a big deal, right? And their relationship is improving. Her and her daughter are getting closer. Their connection is built. Her daughter is getting some help outside of school that she needed. And so it's all come out. And so it's like, even the bad situations, they have the potential to be used for good. It might not happen right away, but if we approach it differently, we can actually see so much good out of it. But if we are responding in a way that has us, hurting and just blaming ourselves and in fear and all of that, we won't get that result. But I can help moms have the correct mindset and work through it in a way that will bless. It'll make that hard situation actually a blessing for their family.
Yeah. And so here's like what I think is the crux of what goes on for many of us is like, We think that if we're doing the right things, like you just pointed out, there is like that's not even a thing. The right way of doing things doesn't even exist. But we think there's some magical formula for everything. And then if we were living out this magical formula, no bad things would happen. The results would be perfection, right? And so anytime something isn't going right, well, we must have done something wrong, is the assumption. Now, are there times where we've made a mess of things because we did it clearly the wrong way? There might not be a right way, but sometimes there is a wrong way, and we do mess things up.
Yeah.
But then you course correct, because that's called adulting. Adulting isn't getting everything right all the time. It's course correcting where appropriate. Life is trial and error. It's almost like a little science experiment, right? So let's try it this way because that seems like it'd give me the best results. Oops, that did not give me the best results. Let me go try another way. Like that's what we're all just muddling through. But can you sort and shift, not sift? Can you like shift and go with the things and be okay with it and stop making meaning into things?
Yeah.
But that's hard to do, especially if you're a control freak like I am.
Yep.
Whenever one of my children had some struggles growing up they got to the point where it was out of my control. I couldn't control it anymore. And it was like, it literally doesn't matter what I do in this situation. I have to give this to God.
Yep.
And remember that he's actually God's kid.
Yep.
And I am a steward.
Yep.
And he gave me this child uniquely to me, not because I'm going to parent the best for all children, but I know what this kid needs.
Yep.
And it might not have looked like it at sometimes when he was on the struggle bus, but everything ended up being okay. But here's what you don't know when your kids are little, moms. They're going to be fine. Yeah. Like you ain't breaking them. They're pretty resistant. It's going to be okay. But in the minute, every decision that you're making feels life or death. It feels like there's some right answer that you've got to figure out. And then we're just like obsessing about things and trying to find the right answer. And it's like, there's not a right answer. Just roll with it. You can be okay.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing too, though, that needs to be stressed is that you're going to get it wrong. You are going to get it wrong. But again, with my client this morning, we talked about it. When we do get it wrong, then I don't even look at it like I used to think, again, I'm a bad mom. I did it wrong. I raised my voice. I overreacted. Oh, I hate how I acted. Okay, well, guess what? Now I get to show my child grace and forgiveness. And I get to go ask my child for forgiveness and tell them that I goofed up. And so what that does, it teaches them to have grace. It teaches them forgiveness. And it also teaches them that, oh, my mom is like a lot older than me and she still messes up. So I guess it's okay. I guess that's part of it. Because I was a real perfectionist as a child and I didn't even really realize how detrimental that can be to a kid as they are growing up. And that with that right, wrong, if everything is black and white and right, wrong, and there is 1/4 of the personality that has a natural bent towards this. It's the perfectionist. It's the black and white. And they're very hard on themselves and they're very hard on other people. And so failure is something, failure is like this big F word that everybody wants to avoid. Failure is part of it. You're going to fail you're going to fail a lot. And I think that's another thing we need to show our kids. It's okay to fail. It's okay to mess up. It's what you do when you mess up. So beating yourself up is not the route that we want to go. Maybe you learn something. Hopefully you learn something. Like you said, you try something different. You're going to shift. What can you do differently? But we're not going to get out of it without failing. But it's not, we need to give ourselves, we can feel disappointment, can feel frustrated, we can feel regret, but then let's move through that. We don't want to stay there. And that's another thing too. Like we don't want to tell our kids that you can't feel a certain way. That's another thing. Our feelings, even moms, well, you can't feel that way. Don't feel this way. Don't say that. Get over it. We've said all these things. We've heard these things. Not helpful.
Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. If my kids were whining, I'm like, hey, Sally, do you want me to put you in a dress? You can go to your cry closet. I have boys. I was literally the worst. I didn't know any of this stuff. See, and my kids are like a normal adults now. They're not even in jail. It's fine, you guys. I screwed them up the most. I was trying to screw these kids up, okay? And they're still okay. So moms, it's going to be all right. But it's going to be all right. They're going to make it. But I mean, we're going to all traumatize our children, just like we grew up with trauma. We're just doing it in different ways. That's fine. But thinking that you can't shelter your kids from all pain. You can't shelter them from making mistakes. They're little people. They're going to make mistakes. Even if you are the perfect June Cleaver mother, they're going to screw stuff up. That's them learning about who they are as a person. And yes, experience the good and the bad of human emotion too. Like, you can't make it through life without feeling any sort of negative emotion. I think they call it toxic positivity now in the personal development world, where it's like, only feel the good things, just change your thoughts. And it's like, no, like, you have to experience both spectrums. You have to know pain to know joy, or there has to be paradox for you to feel the good. Right. Yeah. So with life comes pain and suffering, and it sucks most of the time. Yeah. That's reality. Stop trying to escape it. Don't just chase happiness and joy. I want you guys to feel those things, but know that it's going to come with the trials and the tribulations, and working through those is actually very purposeful for humans. Like, rising to a challenge, right? And recognizing that, okay, if a challenge comes up in the family, it doesn't mean I'm a bad wife or a bad mom. We're just humans living on a broken planet.
Right.
Rise to the occasion and go find the solution, but let yourself feel the things. Let your kids feel the things. It's okay to feel bad things. Don't ruminate there.
Yes. Don't stay there, but it is okay to feel it. Yeah. I think it's very detrimental if we're telling our kids, don't feel that way or whatever. We have to be very careful with that. I think it's much more helpful to say, I see you're feeling this way, or tell me how you're feeling, or what's going on. It's much more helpful to ask them questions and then help them work through it, because it can be detrimental to us as we grow older. And I do want to mention one thing too. So, I mean, we've all had things that were spoken over us or spoken to us as kids. And yes, some of those can hold us back, right? Like we said, we've said it wrong. Like, I remember when I learned, don't say shame on you to your kid. Oh, I was probably saying that like all the time, probably once a week, I didn't know what that did. And so then when I learned, it's like, okay, so thankfully my kids were little, but we could say to ourselves, okay, my kids are older. Shoot, I didn't know that. I told them that. I said this. Oh gosh, are they going to be 30 years old saying my mom screwed me up and she ruined me forever because she said all these things? And so one thing I think that is really powerful for us as moms to remember, because I'm like, that's a lot of pressure, right? Like, I already feel enough pressure. Now I'm like learning this
what
stuff.
Things are these kids going to be saying about me in therapy? Right. Probably something. It's fine.
Yeah, I've said all this stuff, like I didn't know, whatever. So we can think, okay, now I've got more pressure because I've already said these things, and now I'm probably saying more because I don't know all this stuff, and I'm going to do it wrong again, right? So this is like we go down this spin. And one thing that can be very helpful is to just ask your kids periodically, hey, is there anything that I have said to you that I need to ask forgiveness for? Keep open communication with your kids. So, is there anything I'm saying or doing that has hurt you or is hurting you? Just give your kids, I'd say, every few months or so, just, hey, how's it going? Is there anything that I'm doing, right? And then the key is, again, we want to be a safe place for our kids. So don't say, well, I am not. No, I'm not. Or I never said that. Or, you might feel that urge, right? That offense or defensiveness might rise up. But this is where we show that we're a safe place, and apologize. Whether you think you did it or not, apologize. I am so sorry if I made you feel that way. It's all part of the learning process, and then see if there's something that we can change, but be very grateful that they feel comfortable enough to be honest with us.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, how do you get better at things without feedback? Which is a very difficult thing to seek out, really. Nobody wants to hear what they're doing wrong. But if you want to make improvements in areas, what do? You ask for feedback. We do this at work. We do this as business owners. We, on all these other capacities. So how great to just go to the little humans that you're raising and be like, hey, what's going good? What's going bad? What do I need to work on here?
And if you're really feeling brave, ask your husband the same thing.
How brave do you ladies want to be? I love that. That's such a good idea.
And I learned it from someone else. I mean, nothing that I'm sharing did I come up with. Nothing. I have learned from so many other people. I mean, I've read the books, I've listened to the podcasts. I'm always filling my mind. And that's one thing too. Like, if you are in kind of that negative mindset or find yourself feeling a little bit dark, I remember a past business partner would say to me, this person too. He would say, Jill, what are you listening to? And a lot of times I'm like, oh, I have not been feeding my mind with, right, the good, the pure, the lovely, the praiseworthy. We're told these things in the Bible, and maybe you don't follow the Bible, that's fine. But if you don't, it will still bode you very well to listen to something positive, encouraging, something inspiring versus, if you tend to have maybe more of a negative bent on your social media. I'm very blessed with the people that I'm connected with. I don't have a lot of that. But if you feel heavy when you're on there, you might want to take a look at who you're following and maybe, find some of my friends.
Curate your social media pages, ladies. Like I talk about this all the time. My page is like magical. Like it's so inspiring. It's because of who I follow. So here's a hint. You guys can unfollow all of your negative Nancy family and friends and still be their friend on Facebook. You just don't see their trash showing up in your newsfeed, and they don't even know.
They will never know.
My husband will be like, did you see what so-and-so posted? And I'm like, of course I did. And I unfollowed that person 3 years ago. What are you talking about? Like,
Same.
You can go to their page and see it. But when you're just hopping on to peruse,
yep,
you just see like happy, positive things. And it's like, oh, cute kids, cute puppies. All right.
Yeah. And it really tells you what you see somebody posting or sharing on Facebook too. I mean, it is some insight into what's going on with them. It really is. I mean, if you're seeing a lot of negativity and just, not great posts, like I can look at people and I can see, what? She has a lot of fear. She's feeling very insecure. I mean, you can really see, what's going on. My heart, I feel for those people, especially because I don't take how somebody treats me like I used to. Like, used to be very concerned about what people thought. I know why. I know where that came from. It was something spoken in childhood. I know where that concern came from, why it was so deep. I've been able to break free from that. Thankfully, it did not happen overnight. That was a big one. But when you're concerned about I lost my train of thought, Nikki.
Well, like you can feel for these people. You can have empathy for what they're going through.
Yes, because I know now that how somebody treats other people, how they show up in life, it's a very good indication of how they're feeling. So even when somebody would be hurtful to me, and I think, it would really take me down, like take me out of the game for a while. And now I actually, this one took me a while to get there, but I can look at somebody and I actually feel more compassion for them and sad for them than I do hurt for myself. That did not happen overnight, but I used to really, when somebody would hurt me, or say something or do something, I would really take that personally and I would make it mean something about me. Right. But now I know, it's from a place of knowing, you can hear it and you can hear things several times. That's why hear the same thing over and over. If this podcast is helpful to you, listen to it several times. That's how we change the negative thought pattern, by putting the positive one in. And it might take a while until it starts to become a belief. But just till it got to that place of a knowing that it was, it really is more about what's going on with them. It doesn't. And like you said earlier, what other people think about you is none of your business. It has nothing to do with you. It truly doesn't. But it can take a little bit. If you're just hearing that for the first time, it can take a little bit until you get to that spot where you really have that understanding that is really true.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, right? Because we think, well, how can what somebody thinks about me not be any of my business? Well, here's why. Here's why. Because everybody's entitled to have their opinions about whatever they want. And if people are forming an opinion about you that's negative, if it's not true, if you're not doing the things that they think that you're doing, or you're not the way that they think that you are, well, then they're making assumptions based on inaccurate information. So who actually cares? Most of the time, people aren't thinking about us nearly as much as we think they are. So there's also that. Like, they're probably thinking zero things about you. That's the reality. Like, we think everything that we do is under a microscope because we live in our own brains all the time. But everybody else is already worried about their own insecurities. So they're not really even noticing the things about you because they're freaking out about what's wrong with them. And everybody else is just freaking out about what's wrong with them. We're very egocentric humans by nature. So everybody's worried about their own mess. And the ones who are talking about yours, they're just bored and trying to make themselves feel better. So, like, who cares?
Right. And so, like you said, like, worry about your own mess. Okay. So say you have a child that did something at school, your kid punched somebody or whatever. And it's like, oh gosh, what's that mom thinking about me? Well, or whatever happened. Maybe you've had other issues with your kids or your husband or whatever. We do worry about judgment sometimes. We want to keep things quiet because we're worried about judgment. And I can tell you that when you're worried about judgment, you probably have some judgment to work through in your own life. That was definitely true for me. I used to be a very judgmental person, and I didn't really know it until I learned about it. And then I was like, I don't want to be that way anymore. So I really worked on that. As I worked on ridding myself of judging others, I worried a lot less about other people judging me. And I was able to come to a place, and I'm not perfect. I don't always get everything right. My brain tries to sabotage me just as much as the next person. I just know I have a lot more skills now and tools to help me correct it. But my brain sabotages me too. But now I know that when somebody is judging me, I mean, that's a heart issue of their own, and that's between them and God. And again, it has nothing to do with me. It really doesn't. And there's just such a freedom in knowing at a deep level a lot of what we have talked about today. I guess it's just a peace. Mm-hmm. It's a peace that I want for every mom to have. We all have the same hurts. We all have, for the most part, they're different levels, the same struggles. Our brains are all trying to keep us safe. And in the process of doing that, they don't want us to move forward. They don't want us to think a thought that we haven't thought before. They want to take us back to, even though it's painful, they want to take us back to that same rut. Mm-hmm. But there's such a peace on the other side of it. And even in the process of working through it, there is some pain in it, but for a lot of us, there's pain in staying where we are right now too. So yeah.
Well, we oftentimes choose the devil, right? So my situation sucks. I'm very uncomfortable with lots of things, but change is scary. And that's true for everybody. So most of us would rather stay with something uncomfortable than change because it's unknown, it's fearful. Yeah. And I think that's why having somebody to kind of like help you through that process, like what you're helping women do, is so important. Like, lock arms with somebody who's been there, who's done it, and can kind of help you with the reframing of those thoughts, because they don't just go away just because we think about something happy. Like, it's not that simple. But it's very possible to change our thoughts, and that's how you change your whole entire life. You change your thoughts, you change your whole entire life.
It really is. And again, that's just something that I had heard, but I didn't understand it until I started to do it. I always went to the do. We always say, but how, because we want to go to the do. It's just what we've always been told, right? It's always about the action. And I mean, it is even biblical too. I mean, as a man thinketh, so is he. Like, all the answers are there. It really is where it starts. And I heard having a coach described as it's like having a best friend that you get to talk to every week, and it's all about you, and she's got all the answers. And one thing I will say is that it is like talking to your best friend, because you can share anything without judgment. You'll never be judged. It's a safe and confidential place. And as far as having the answers, you'll think your coach has all the answers, but really all the answers are within you. Your coach just helps you pull them all out. And I just think that's such a beautiful way to be described, and to describe, my own coach as well.
Yeah, because there isn't a right way. We just kind of find what your right way is. Like what's going to be right for you in this moment and how much change can you handle right now? And what's going to get you where you need to be? And what are the thoughts that are going to hold you back? Let's deal with them because they're coming.
Yeah.
Change is scary for all of us.
Yeah. But when you have somebody walking you through it, it changes everything. Like my client today, we've been meeting for 4 weeks and she's showing up differently. Her husband's noticing, her family's noticing. I mean, the way that I look at it is you help a mom change and improve into who she is. That's who you are inside. We all know who we are inside. Like when you admire somebody or you think, I want to be more like this, it's really who you are. It's just getting rid of some of the junk and helping you show up as more of who you really are. But when you do that and you pick up a couple extra skills, maybe to think a little bit differently, that has you showing up differently in your life. I mean, it changes the kind of mom that you are. It changes your relationship with your husband if you're married. It changes your relationship. Like I said, there's a lot of hurts with moms, mothers, mother-in-laws, and sisters. And I've had some of my own hurts in some of those same areas. And I can only tell you that this works because I've done it in my own life. I mean, something so powerful, just to throw another nugget out there, is if there's somebody in your life that offends you, and again, it's probably one of those close people, is to say, I choose not to take offense. I cannot tell you how powerful that's been in my own life and in many of my clients. I literally have even friends sometimes that will text me and say, I'm sitting outside of a party ready to go in, and there's a person in there that tends to trigger me, and I'm saying, I choose not to take offense. I choose not to take offense. And they're just saying it. I'm like, just say it several times. And my husband, I remember saying one time, he's like, that's ridiculous. You have to say that before you see, this person or that person. And I said, you might look at it that way, but I would much rather take the time beforehand to get my mind right and say, I choose not to take offense so that whatever they say can blow off me, versus if I don't, and then I just come in there and she says something to me and then I say something back, the anxiety, the regret, the guilt from how I showed up, I can be free of all that. And I said, this is so worth it to me to show up as who I want to be, in no matter what somebody says to me. And again, I do not always get it right. I definitely don't always get it right. But when I can be intentional and have my mind in the right spot, especially when there's somebody that tends to say those hurtful things, we all have them. We all have them, Mama. It's not just you. We all have them. But when we can get our mind in the right spot, it can really change. It changes everything. And you will see healing. You will see healing in that relationship when you change how you show up to that relationship every time.
I love that. Because especially right now, because we have a society that like feels entitled to be offended. Like if you're in America and you don't wake up offended every day, you're doing it wrong. Like
there's a reward for it.
Yeah.
Like there's a reward for being offended. And I was thinking about doing a live video on it too. Offense is a choice.
Mm-hmm. Just because somebody says something to you, or they have a thought or an opinion that is like opposite of yours or whatever it is, you might not agree with it, but it doesn't mean that it has to personally offend you. Like your political views don't personally offend me. Your religious views don't personally offend me. Things that you say to me actually don't usually even personally offend me because I just like don't care. But like being upset about it is like you're choosing to that's like giving somebody else your power, in my opinion. Like if 100%. You're gonna let the opinions and the thoughts and the things that are said by somebody else trigger you. What did that do for you? Do you're like, okay, so you feel justified in however your reaction is, and maybe it is justified, but it also wasn't helpful.
Yep.
And now you're just all spinning out all day and like, can you believe that she said that? Oh my God. Like, it's not fun.
Yeah. And where you are offended, I mean, a lot of times are triggered, we love to use that word lately too. If you're triggered by somebody else, a lot of times that's letting you know where you have some unhealed hurt. That might be where your own work is. Yeah. And another thing too, is if you are offended, you're mad about something or whatever, maybe you're called to find a solution for that area. I mean, instead of being upset about it and just going on social media about it, which a lot of people do, I think, because they want to be heard. Everybody wants to be heard and seen, and social media is a way to be seen and heard. But maybe you're supposed to do something about that. Maybe if you see something as an injustice and it really digs deep with you, but you have a solution deep inside that God actually has planned for you to go make some major changes. I mean, what is it? Was it Gandhi or whatever? Be the change you wish to see in the world.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we all just did a little something towards a change instead of just talking about it, there are things. So instead of just, well, why is it that way? What's one thing I could do about it? If we, again, shift that thinking a little bit, I don't know. We could
I am deeply offended by diet culture.
Oh,
and I complain about it all the time, but I'm not offended in a way where it's bothering me. I'm just going to show people a different way to do it. And I talk trash about diets all the time.
Yep.
All the time. And I'm going to keep talking trash about it because I'm not always a Little Miss Sunshine and positive, but I'm talking trash about it to bring light to the situation and be like, you can do something totally different here. Like diets don't work 95% of the time. So why are you beating yourself up that it didn't work?
Right. Your spin on it is in a helpful way. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm still mad about it and I'm still talking trash and getting all riled up, but it's like, here, come over to this side where you don't have to diet to lose weight. It's magical.
And it works. I also have a solution. Yes.
Exactly. Yes. Yep. So if you want to be triggered about stuff, that's fine. But like, what are you doing with it?
Yeah.
Like being offended just to be offended is not going to make you feel good.
No. And like you said, it's giving your power away. One thing I tell my kids too is they'll say, he makes me so mad, or, and I'll say, actually, nobody really has the power to make you feel or do anything. And that's a big one too. That can be a tough one to receive if you're not ready for it. But nobody has the power to make you feel a certain way. You have to allow it. And, so, I mean, if that's a hard one to come by, you can work through it. I promise you. It might take a little bit of time, but your power is yours. You don't need to give that away. I think a lot of times we think we're victim to the way that we feel. And I used to think I was too. And I used to think like, wow, if I could only control my thoughts, I would say that. If I could only control my thoughts. Well, guess what, friends? You can. There is a way to, thoughts are still going to come in, but we don't have to keep them, right? Yeah. We don't have to keep them. We don't have to let them stay. We can choose to say, is this thought serving me? And if not, we can send it packing. And I didn't know how to do that, but it's definitely a lot simpler than what you might think. And that's what a coach will help you do.
Yeah. And that's not bullying yourself into not having the thoughts. And it's not just pretending like everything's okay and sweeping things under the rug. You got to deal with that.
Yeah. There's no shame. Like one thing I told my sister I'd learned from one of my coaches, oh, you have a human brain. That's what a human brain does. A human brain is going to offer you, I think it's like 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And then like 80% of them or something are negative. So guess what? If you have negative thoughts, you are human. Wonderful. We live on planet Earth. Here we're human. That's the way it is. But we just don't have to let those thoughts work against us, which a lot of times they do. But there is a way to get our thoughts working for us. And I just think every person, I think it should be taught in school, first of all. But every mom should be able to know that and know that on a deep level, how to get her thoughts to serve herself and move her forward to where she wants to be, instead of keeping her in the past and, with her power gone, or, with just not feeling as joyful. I feel like a lot of moms just feel like a lot of their joy has been taken. And a lot of it does come from, maybe past stuff, but it's the way that we're choosing to think about certain things, what we're making certain things mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just know, chicks, like if you're like struggling with all these mindset thoughts, we all are. We all are. And guess what? Nobody's kids always go to school with t-shirts that don't have stains on them, or get all A's, or are in all the sports, or like whatever things we're thinking, like just let it go. Just keep them alive. Yep. And love them a little bit. And like, you can still take time for yourself and it's okay. And the sky's not going to fall, but
yeah. I think love too, just loving your kids and just encouraging them it goes so far, right? We're so hard on ourselves. We could be hard on our kids, but just loving them through it. And like you said, just knowing that it's all going to work out. It's going to be okay.
It really will. It really will. They'll get there, Mom. They'll get there. And so will you. Try to just enjoy the chaos, enjoy the mess of it, because one day your kids are adults and you have to go in their room and ask them to play board games. They start telling you no. That's what happens. I'm like, you guys want to play a game with me? No. And I'm like, I regret not playing Candy Crush with you that one more time.
That's awesome.
Oh, the tides will turn, trust me. But no, just enjoy it, because they'll be adults before you know it.
Oh, that makes me sad sometimes to think about it. But
and on a sad note.
Yeah. I mean, it is true though. These days are going much faster. And I just think it's not worth letting another day be taken with thoughts that don't serve you. It's not. Your future, your best you is waiting for you. Don't let another person, another situation steal your joy any longer. Mm-hmm. Take that power back.
Don't expect yourself to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be. Don't look for the magical right answer. It's not real. It's just when you're making choices for your family, it's like, okay, well, here's option A, here's option B. What are the pros and the cons? All right, let's wing it and see what happens. Like, don't put so much.
The wrong one. Yeah. Here and there. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that didn't work out. Let's try this. Like, it's just look at it like one big old experiment. We're just all trying to get through.
Yeah. It really is. And, just make sure you've got somebody that's in your corner. I mean, make sure you at least have somebody that's 100% in your corner. I do find a lot of women don't have a lot of close women that they can trust. And so that too, if that's you, start by being that woman that other women can trust. Be that for somebody else. And that's what will draw that in, is to be it first.
Oh, I love that so much. Where can our listeners get more Jill? Where do they find you?
Well, I am on Facebook. I do share a lot of my personal life, but I do have a lot of my clients that are just coming to me from Facebook. But I also have a private Facebook group called The Confident Mom. And so, I do run some free classes in there. I've just done some parenting things and some personality stuff. I did a time management class, and I am going to do a marriage class soon in September sometime. I haven't picked the date yet, but I will be doing a marriage class. I know that marriages are really under attack also. So that's something I'll do. But so they're welcome to find me there also.
Okay, perfect. I will put the links for Jill's personal Facebook page and her group in the show notes for you listeners, so that you can get more awesome tips from Jill and connect with her if you want to do that. But thank you so much for being on. This was super fun.
This was a blast. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you got so much good knowledge in that brain of yours. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Nikki.
Yep, have a good one.
All right, you too.
Thanks for tuning in. It is my mission to give women back the confidence that they need to show up bigger in their lives. Right now, the world more than ever needs women who are on fire and living their purpose. If you want to join me in this mission, there's a few things you can do. 1, you can share this podcast with the women in your circle. 2, you can join me in my Facebook group, Simplified Fat Loss, or you can subscribe to my newsletter at nikkioday.com.